Good morning. I'm Pastor Tully here with my Wednesday morning message. Over the last few weeks, over this season of Lent, I've been working my way through the whole New Testament, and many of you have been reading along with me. And of course, we are at the end of March. We're almost done with Lent, and we are at the end of our journey together through the New Testament. I hope it has been an uplifting and fulfilling experience for you. I know it has been so for me. But of course, at the end, we get to the last book of the Bible, and probably the hardest to understand. It's my least favorite book of the Bible. It's the one that's most open to interpretation and misinterpretation. It's the one that is really just confusing, and I just don't think it's that helpful for having faith in God and Christ. There's so many other much better verses and books. So here we go. 7 things to know about the book of Revelation and 7 things to skip. Number 1, it was written by John, and it is the book of John's revelation. So something was revealed to John, and John had a revelation. It is not revelations, plural or possessive. Paul's writing this letter or this book to 7 churches in what we would now call Turkey and Greece, he says in Asia. And it's places like Ephesus and Philadelphia and Smyrna, names that we might be familiar with, but places all the way on the other side of the world. All right, number 2, John was on an island. In verse 1:9, it says he was on Patmos Island. So John is in prison here, and he has to write this book in a secret code. He's writing it to followers of Jesus, but he knows that the guards are going to see what he's writing. So he can't just write down with Caesar, destroy the Roman Empire, because the Roman guards wouldn't let that letter get sent out. So he writes it in this code, and the people he was writing to, they would have understood the code, but we don't necessarily get the code today, and we don't know what it's about. All right, number 3 is that the book of Revelation is really it's 3 parts. It's 1 part letter, it's 1 part prophecy, and it's 1 part apocalyptic literature. Apocalyptic is just a fancy word meaning it's about the end times and the end of the world or the end of something, the end of an era. The phrase "the world ended" has brought on whole new meaning for me after the events of 2020. I can't tell you how many times I said, I was going to do this, and then the world ended in March of 2020. We're still here. The world still the earth keeps spinning, but the world as we knew it ended when the pandemic began. So when we think about the end times in apocalyptic literature, is it talking about the end of the physical earth? Or is it talking about the end of a time or a season? Which brings me to point number 4. This book was written about 2,000 years ago, and it was written to people who lived nearly 2,000 years ago. And so it's talking about future events for them, but their future is our past since they lived so long ago. They were real people dealing with very real issues, geopolitical, economic issues, social issues, as well as spiritual issues. And John is writing to address all of those things, but they lived a long time ago, and their future is our past. All right, number 5, it's one of the few really good verses in the book of Revelation. It's Revelation 1:5. Here, I'll read it for you. May kindness and peace be yours from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness. Jesus was the first to conquer death, and he is the ruler of all earthly kings. Christ loves us, and by his blood, he has set us free from our sins. It's one of the best verses in this book. Number 6 is another verse. This one is in chapter 5, verse 9. It's talking about what's going on in heaven. Then they sang a new song. You are worthy to receive the scroll and open its seals. They're talking about Jesus here. Because you were killed, and with your own blood you bought from God people of every tribe, language, nation, and race. Again, just another really good verse, I think, that tells us about what Jesus did for us. All right, the seventh thing you should know about the book of Revelation, another verse, 21, 3, and 4. I heard a loud voice shout from the throne, God's home is now with his people. He will live with them, and they will be his own. Yes, God will make his home among the people. He will wipe all tears from their eyes, and there will be no more death, suffering, crying, or pain. These things of the past are gone forever. It's very near the end of the Bible. It's one of the last verses in the Bible. And basically it's telling us at the end of the end, this is what it will be like. All right, now, 7 things you can skip in the book of Revelation. The part about the 7 seals. The part about the 7 trumpets. The part about the 7 bowls of God's anger, chapter 16. You can pretty much skip all of chapter 7. You can skip the battle with the dragon. You can skip the verses about Armageddon. Remember that Armageddon, it literally translates to the hill of Mageddon. So this was a very real place, not the end of the world. And then last thing you can skip, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Read those parts if you want, but don't let them dominate your heart or your mind and your faith. Go back to the stuff that John wrote in his letters and in the gospel and Jesus' commandment to love one another. I think that brings us to the end of our journey through the New Testament. I want to hear from you. How was it? So let me know. Send me a chat, a text, an email, whatever. Drop a comment below. All right, take care.